Now that 2018 is over, I think I want to spend some time talking about the albums that I enjoyed listening to during the year, which I didn't give a spot in any of my end of the year lists because they did not come out in 2018. To start this off, I want to talk about an album that got a grip on me and didn't let me go throughout the year. It's the sophomore album of a Michigan band that goes by the name of Cheerleader. Ladies and gentlemen and everyone in between, this is Bitchcraft. The music contained in Bitchcraft is an unholy mixture of surf rock with bits of punk, a dash of Master of Reality, Black Sabbath, and a shitload of attitude thrown in. It's a mixture of striking, if few riffs performed with slightly distorted but overall somewhat clean guitar tones, low and soft bass, and basic but to the point drums. Speaking of which, the one thing about the music that I'm going to criticize the execution of will be the drums. Look, Nemesisters does a stellar job of keeping the pulse in the songs, but the rhythms are so very basic, and I don't think delegating the variation duty almost entirely to the cymbals was that good of an idea, because this decision effectively forces the drums to remain pretty much in the same beat throughout the album. Normally I would write that as a negative thing, but coupled with how short the songs are, as only 2 tracks break the 3-minute mark, you don't really have the time to get bored with it. Instead, the melodies laid on top of the drums take control and embed themselves into your memory. And on that note, the songs don't feature a lot of riffs or melodies, but are instead built on these central ideas that dominate them throughout their length. When coupled with memorable melodies and the almost insistent way that they are featured, Bitchcraft takes little to no time to sink in. The aura of Bitchcraft is very much late 80s to early 90s. The overall sound just harkens back to that particular era and is decidedly nostalgic, but not deliberately. The band not relying on this to the extent where the music would become entirely dependent on it keeps the sound from being instantly dated despite its inherently dated qualities. See, as grounded in surf rock and punk as it is, Bitchcraft doesn't really have a clean-cut sound with dominant nostalgic sensibilities. This album is a torn-up couch in the basement showroom, the smell of smoke, sweat, and cheap booze, the 90s teen movie with gut-punching turmoil for days. The tracks on here chronicle the dysfunctional life of a rebel looking for a cause and finding nothing but their own shortcomings, so they lash out at everything that makes them feel boxed in. This feeling of releasing tension is palpable, although it's more prominent in the punch-in-your-face songs on this thing, like Beauty Queen, TV, or more notably Dentata. I think Dentata is indeed a great example of this. The song has a metal edge despite the moderately distorted guitar tone, but its execution is positively visceral. It's a low mid-tempo song that alternates between relatively quieter and relatively louder parts, and Crystal Lautner of the band Sweat contributes greatly to this by adding her vocal touches to it. As per its namesake, this song has teeth. On the other hand, Bitchcraft isn't a start-to-finish exercise in releasing pent-up frustration. In fact, there are moments of genuine depression on here, like the song Fade or the doomy breakdown ending of The Anxiety song. See, both of these tracks are more attuned to the inherent tension underlying the album instead of the releasing of it. To say nothing of the closer, These Are My Gifts, which splits that difference by invoking a sinister and menacing air, chronicling a slow ascent into insanity. Also fitting quite nicely into the scheme of things in Bitchcraft is the production, which seems to have gone in a rather interesting direction. The album is lo-fi on purpose without a doubt, and while this gives it some rawness, it also takes away from potential impact because I don't think it needed to be as lo-fi as it is. The cymbals just buzz static, and the more high-pitched vocal sections don't really do the songs any favors. I am especially not fond of that nerfed snare, which is a real issue because because the snare keeps the beat, and given the style of drumming involved, it is nearly constantly there, so softening it was an interesting choice, even though I'd much rather have this than a snare that drowns out everything else. But credit where it's due, because despite the static-laced, tinny production, the mix is rather well balanced. The bass comes through low and clean, the drums sit nicely, and the guitars never overpower everything, nor do they sound limp. Despite my objections, this is the type of production that scoffs at things like polish or cleanliness, the type of production that some bands really wish they had. And this really helps the sound by making it feel less like it was recorded in an orderly fashion, part by part, and more like it was just unleashed upon the studio. And overall, I think despite the rather limiting stylistic choices involved, Bitchcraft knows what it wants to be and does a good job of being it. I mean, at just 25 minutes, this thing makes you want to go out and scream at people. I'd recommend this to people who like old school punk, Riot Grrrl bands, music with attitude, and overall just want something with a little bite in it. Now, if you've already listened to this album, please let me know what you thought in the comments. If you want to go listen to it and then tell me what you think, a link to the Bandcamp page is in the description. If you like this video, please subscribe and join my growing posse so we can fuck shit up. Peace out.